Now we have news that Ezekiel Elliott reportedly will hold out from training camp unless he gets a new contract. Now, Ezekiel Elliott led the NFL in rushing last season. And, of course, the Cowboys collapsed the season before when he faced a 6-game suspension because of his off-field activities. And the year before, he had an incredible first season in the National Football League. He's been great. Melvin Gordon, of course, continues to make news. It leaked out last week that he's at an impasse with the Chargers. Gordon is in the 5th year of the rookie 5-year contract, right? The 5th-year option, which actually spikes in terms of what they're going to pay you. The secret to these rookie contracts, and Ezekiel Elliott's because he was drafted higher, but they're really front-loaded deals. So it looks like you don't make a lot of money, but you make a lot of money up front because they're going to it pays you over the life of the contract, and it all is, in fact, guaranteed. Like, common misconception is that NFL contracts are not guaranteed. Rookie contracts for first-round picks are 100% guaranteed. And that 5th-year option, once it's picked up, that is a spike. Case in point, Melvin Gordon made $6 million his first year, made less than $1 million the next 3 years, and then is set to make $5 million in change guaranteed in the 5th year. He wants a long-term extension. He was offered one by the Chargers, but he feels disrespected because it is not equal to the tops in the league. Ezekiel Elliott is in the 4th year, so he was paid a bunch of money up front, about $1 million a year, or a little bit more than, I think, like $2 million a year the next 2 years. Now he's in the 4th year. Next year it would spike up, but of course he would be offered a long-term extension probably this upcoming offseason. Instead, he wants what Todd Gurley got, which is a long-term extension a year before he needs to get it. Here's the problem, though. Couple things. I said this last week. Please don't use Todd Gurley, a contract that the Rams would love to get out of, as see, you should do to me what the Rams did to Todd Gurley. And if you want to use Le'Veon Bell's contract, understand that 1, Le'Veon Bell played a year under the franchise tag. 2, Le'Veon Bell's contract was so well received that the general manager who offered and it was signed was summarily fired afterwards. Right? And look, Zeke Elliott probably is the best running back in the National Football League. Probably is. But didn't he just have a meeting with the commissioner? That did just happen, right? Where the commissioner said, look, you didn't do anything wrong that I can suspend you for, but really, drunk at a concert, kind of big boying a security guard, this a year and a half removed from having to sit 6 games and personally derailing your team's chances of making into the playoffs? Like, are we really having to have this meeting? This is just like 2 weeks removed from Ezekiel Elliott professing that he's going to be a changed man and take things more seriously off the football field. This did happen. The idea that the Cowboys would give Ezekiel Elliott the largest contract in the history of the NFL to a running back when he's like a week off of meeting the commissioner after already being suspended once. By the way, if you get suspended an additional time for off-the-field issues, no matter how minor, it will be more, not less than 6 games. Right? Repeat offender. So, do I think he's as bad a human being as he was painted to be with his toxic relationship with his college girlfriend? No. Do I think it's as big a deal that he pulled down the top of a girl at a St. Patrick's Day party? Probably not. But there's enough smoke there to where you're like, come on, dude. It is time to grow up. And there's some video of him not growing up. Wait, so you now want me to pay you more than anybody else? Oh, yeah, and there's the running back position, which feels like cable and satellite TV, doesn't it? Now, for the record, I've had satellite, and they call me at least 3 or 4 times a week, wooing me, trying to woo me back. And I have cable now. And there is value to having cable or satellite, right? If you have satellite, you can get the package to watch all the NFL games as well as Red Zone. The only problem with satellite is you can't get Pac-12 Net, My brother's a coach at a Pac-12 team. And locally, you can't get the Doyers, can't get the Dodgers, which I want to watch the Dodgers play baseball. They're the best team in the sport. They're in the town I live, and I want to watch them play. And so I get cable because of it. I can watch Lakers. I can watch Dodgers. I can still get a Red Zone channel. But I know that cable has a pitfall in that I can't get the NFL package. Of course, I could save money, which is what most NFL teams are choosing to do now. Right? Do the old a la carte thing. Cutting away from the bundle. Why would I do that when my favorite shows are on Hulu and Netflix, et cetera, and Amazon Prime? I already use Amazon Prime. I got those three. Now, I understand that the cable and satellite bundle, people will sit there and go like, wait a second. You got to make sure that you have really good high-speed internet. And if you do so, you're going to end up paying for that internet, whatever that fee is, along with your subscriber fee for Netflix, for Hulu, for Amazon Prime. You end up paying almost as much anyway. But there's a lot of similarities there. Like Ezekiel Elliott, I would say Zeke is just like cable, but just like satellite. Right? He's awesome. He can play on all three downs. But what happens if your satellite goes out? Right? What happens if your satellite goes out? Your satellite goes out, screwed. You got a thunderstorm? Sorry, can't help you. Or what happens if you want to watch the Dodgers play? But when you're all locked in on one guy, you know that there is usually one thing that is a pitfall there. And for satellite, it could be weather, it could be the Dodgers, or it could be the highly prohibitive cost. It's expensive. It's not cheap. And that's what Ezekiel Elliott is. He wants to get paid top dollar, and yet he's one mishap away from being suspended for half a season. And oh yeah, by the way, what if he, who averaged 20 carries a game last year, wears down like Todd Gurley or gets hurt like they all do? Now you're so front-loaded on money that you spent for him. How do you spend on Dak? And oh yeah, by the way, how do you have other running backs? Whereas the cord cutters will say, hey, look, if Netflix isn't working or if I've seen all the shows on Netflix, I just go to Hulu or I just go to Amazon, which is what most of these teams are doing. You don't have to have one back. You have three. And individually, no one's saying they're as good as Ezekiel Elliott. No one's saying they're as good as Melvin Gordon. No one's saying they're as good as picked stud running back. But what they're saying is you get better value, you have more options, and if one goes down or if one doesn't have the show you want, the other one may. We act like running backs, and this devaluing of star running backs is something which is separate and unique to any other business in the world, and it's not. Centers are like that in the NBA. You have one rim protector, you have one small ball five, and you have one stretch five. And the days of throwing it into Patrick Ewing are long gone. Having one center makes no sense. Having one running back doesn't generally make you into a great football team. You can have it. It can work for you. But the second it breaks down, you might end up being screwed. Especially if you overpay the way the Rams overpaid. They lucked out. They found C.J. Anderson, and he worked out. And yet when they got to their biggest game, neither of them were good enough, and they couldn't score against the New England Patriots. But I feel like running backs are looking like cable and satellite TV. Still very valuable. Still very important to the TV industry, to the company I work for. Because you can get things there that you can't get anywhere else. You can't get live sports program. I know Hulu has live sports or whatever. I've seen the ads. They have their value. They have their place. Ezekiel Elliott's good, but you got to understand the landscape of the business. which is the same as the landscape of the TV business. And if you ask for too much money, you get cut out of the bundle. He's a three-time Super Bowl champion, NFL and Fox analyst, and all-around good guy, Mark Schlereth, who joins us. Stink, I was just out. I'm actually telling stories more off-air on text to some of my friends. I played in a league called the USBL, which was like when I came out of college, the CBA was going through a rough patch. It was right before I think it had gone bankrupt or was going bankrupt. The G League was in, the D League was just starting. There was a bunch of, but the USBL had been around a while and actually was just a May and June league. Played and a ton of NBA players. And my late father, when I told him how good everybody was, he's like, look, there's always a reason, right? Like, you're in that league because you have no jump shot, right? Everybody's got a reason they don't make it. Sometimes it's women, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's drinking, sometimes it's gambling. I would bet that during your time with the Redskins and the Broncos, there are plenty of talented guys that fell out of favor and fell out of the league for roughly the same reasons. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's always guys that are incredibly gifted, like hand of God gifted, that whatever reason, there's something that they don't possess. You know, one of the things that I always think about it at the next level from kind of good to great or great to, Hall of Fame type of level is something they don't test for at combine, something they don't look for. We always test athleticism, right? We look at a guy and say, well, he's an elite level athlete. He can run, he can jump, he can do all these things. In the game of football, sometimes it just becomes how quickly you process information.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with intelligence. Like, there's a lot of people that are super intelligent, uber intelligent, that don't process quickly enough. And the elite level processors, the guys that can take the information in their eyes and they don't think about it. It just automatically triggers what to do. Those are the guys, to me, that are on film. They may not run the elite level 40 or have the elite level vertical jump, but those are guys that are always around the ball, that always make plays. And that, to me, derails more guys than anything else. I always tell people it really becomes, because everybody's gifted athletically, in football it becomes a neck-up league. It's the guys from the neck up that have that ability. Those are the guys that can play for a very long time. And the guys that don't, frankly, they just never will play or never reach their potential, even if they're just hand of God gifted athletically.
No, that's a great point. So, the Patriots for a long time have gone after guys at college degrees, and others have fallen in place with. Doesn't necessarily mean just because you got a college degree or because you score higher on said Wonderlic test that you're a smarter football player, but it can be a marker for some form of intelligence that, intelligence does in fact win because you can figure out how to deal with any of your own inadequacies. Doug Gottlieb Show, Fox Sports Radio. Mark Schlereth is our guest. Running backs are interesting, and you've seen so many of them. You've blocked for so many of them. I mean, the story in Denver when you were there was, your offensive line was so good, your quarterback play was so good that it felt like even when Terrell Davis went down, there was somebody else that was able to have a profound impact. If anything, I almost feel like your Denver Broncos were the beginning of the end of the dynamic, individual, high-paid running back. Is that a crazy statement to make?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think you look at it, and I've always said this. Terrell Davis goes down with a knee injury in 1999, I think week 4. Orlando Scary comes in, starts 12 games, and ends up having 1,200 yards. And then the next year, it's Mike Anderson, is a 26-year-old Marine who we sign, and he ends up having 1,400 yards. The next year, and then it's Reuben Drones, and then it's Clinton Portis, and then it's like anybody you put back there ended up having 1,400 yards. But I always said the year that Orlando Scary had, 1,200 yards, TD would have had 1,700. The year that Mike Anderson had 1,400, TD probably would have had 2,100. I mean, he made up for a multitude of sins that way. But I do think the running back position, it's changed. It's been devalued. It's like the fullback position in this league. And it's by committee, and guys have certain skill sets, and there's not many guys that are complete, that are that big bruising running back that can run between the tackles, that still has the speed to get to the edge, but is good in the backfield as far as blitz pickup and catching the ball. And so much of the game you look at the game today, you're defending third down plays, what used to be third down plays when I was playing, on first down. That's the majority of the game is played out of sub now, where everything is kind of quote unquote nickel package, 3-wide package, spread packages. So there's not a lot of backs that have that complete ability to kind of morph into whatever you need them to morph into.
Okay, so is Ezekiel Elliott the best back in the league?
Yeah, I do think he is. I think he is one of those unique guys. I said this coming out of college. The thing that impressed me more than anything about him in college was his ability to just absolutely stone defenders that were blitz. His blitz pickup ability was phenomenal. Catches the ball well out of the backfield. We know how dynamic he is. So, yeah, I would say that he's on a short list of the best in the league. Probably off the top of my head, I would rank him right up there, probably number one.
Okay, so apparently he's told people close to him that he wants to sit out training camp to get a new contract. He's under contract for 2 more years. That fifth-year extension would be the fifth-year option would be next year, where you do make more money. But usually before that last year is when the new contract comes. That's what Melvin Gordon, wants a new contract before. This is like he wants Todd Gurley's deal. Todd got paid, in what would be this, right before this training camp. What do you think the Cowboys should do?
Well, again, the devalued position. Todd Gurley got that contract and was phenomenal for 12 games, and then just the wear and tear and the beating, that he took on his body. I mean, it showed up at the end and really hurt them come down their playoff stretch, and they got to the Super Bowl, but it really hurt them in the Super Bowl. I'm all for guys getting paid. That position is an interesting position simply because of of the longevity or the lack thereof. But I look at how special he is and the difference he makes to your young quarterback. And let's face it, this is a league in which the quarterbacks are coveted. The game is very surrounded about your quarterback having success. And Dak Prescott is a much better player when Zeke Elliott is healthy and doing his thing. Now, I understand that he wants to get paid, but there's a guy that makes it tough. Like, he's his own worst enemy.
No doubt. That's what I said. Like, he just met with the commissioner. He just was like, I want a new contract. Like, look, dude, you're lucky the commissioner didn't ding you a game or two.
Right, exactly. And that's the fear. Like, if you had a complete and total, your record was clean and you didn't have any issues, and we didn't have to worry about every time you go out that you may get in a fight or you may do something stupid, then it'd be a lot easier to pay you. So, I understand guys want to get paid, but I also understand that playing in this league is a privilege, right, and it's one that you have to take very seriously. And they've got you under contract for 2 years. Sit out, get fined. We don't have to pay you jack because you won't make any money. So there's a very fine line he's walking on, and his off the field, like the lack of integrity that he's shown off the field at times would, if I'm running the Cowboys, would make it very hard for me to give him a long-term deal with a bunch of upfront money.
All right, Melvin Gordon, another guy who can do it all, but they have other backs to help him. He has 1,000-yard season. Part of the reason he has only 1,000-yard season is he's been dinged up the other 3 seasons. Slow rookie year, but after that, dynamic. Last year, over 5 yards a carry. Can also catch the ball out of the backfield. He, too, wants a new deal. He feels disrespected by what I'm told is somewhere in the $10 million a year neighborhood, 25 or so in the first 3 years kind of guaranteed. They have him under contract for 1 more year, that 5th-year option, and then they could franchise tag him. He doesn't want to play unless he gets Todd Gurley money, unless he gets Le'Veon Bell money. What would you do if you're the LA Chargers?
That's a guy that I wouldn't sign to a long-term deal. He's had 1 year where he's played 16 games. Last year, I think he started 14 games or 12 games, had 800 yards rushing. Last year was the first year that he averaged over 4 yards a carry. He's come out with a bulky knee from day one, something that's been troublesome for him over the course of his career. And frankly, he'll catch 50 balls a year, and so he is a dynamic player in that regard. But I just look at the injury risk with him, and I look at the lack of production, the lack of games played, and the lack of, like I said before last year, I think he averaged about 3.9 a carry. I haven't seen enough to make me feel like it warrants paying that guy. And so he would be one, like, I would pay Zeke if it wasn't for the off field stuff. Like, he would, like, if you combine the two and had the great off the field character with what Zeke could do, that's the guy I want to pay. But Gordon, like, I even look in around the league and say, when I put Gordon in the top 10 backs, and if I was going, hey, man, I want the top 10 backs, just pure dynamic nature. Now, he scores a lot of touchdowns and stuff, and if I was a fantasy owner, maybe that would be really key for me. But, like, would I put him in my top 10 backs? I don't know that he would fit in there.
Yeah, it's really I feel like he's getting some bad advice from people going like, look, they got to pay you. They want to win now. Look what everybody else is getting. And, he even came out and said, he even came out and said how difficult it is to replace star running backs, and they were 4-0 without him. Right. So,
right. Don't forget this either. Anthony Lynn was my teammate here when we ran through running backs.
Right.
He was a running back. He was a fullback. He was a special teams player. When every running back we put in got 1,000 yards. So he comes from that world where you can run multiple guys and have guys for situations. So he understands that world.
Yeah, fascinating. Last thing, Jadeveon Clowney. See, I think one of the reasons you need a general manager in the NFL, it's much the same reason that, players need an agent, because there are things that can be said between agents and GMs that there's filters, and so they can be softened. So when the news comes out that because there's no GM, it's actually the head coach, Bill O'Brien, who doesn't want to sign Jadeveon Clowney to a long-term deal, that seems to do what I would think would be major damage to their relationship. Does that matter from your perspective?
Yeah, no, it definitely matters. I think it's hard, when you're a head coach. Like, I think we've seen the trend kind of switch back. Like, there was a while with Mike Holmgren and then Mike Shanahan and a couple other coaches that wanted to be the grand poobah of all things. Bill Parcells maybe started the whole thing off. But you get into a position, or you put yourself into a position where you have to be hardline negotiation. And guys get their feelings hurt. I mean, we always want our guys to be emotional and to play with emotion and play with great passion and go out and represent, our organization well. But when it comes to the business aspect, we want them to be non-human, right? Oh, it's a business. Right. You just got to handle it.
Right.
And like, I don't know, life doesn't work that way. I mean, I'm a human, if something's going on in my family or with my household that bothers me, man, it's hard for me to let that go. Like, they always talk about the field being a sanctuary. Man, I had to have my stuff right at home. Otherwise, like, I could carry that stuff with me. And so, yeah, there sometimes you get in a situation where there's animosity. There's, look at what's happened in Pittsburgh. You don't think there's animosity between Le'Veon Bell and Tomlin and the rest of that organization? Of
Sure.
course there is. And so, yeah, that's a real thing. And I'm 100% with you, because then you get put in a really bad position. You want kind of that good cop, bad cop scenario for a lot of different reasons. Hey, man, if it's the coach that's benching you and saying, I don't think you're playing well enough, the general manager can walk up beside you and say, hey, man, I still believe in you. You've got great talent. You just got to work through a couple things, right? And if it's the coach going, hey, man, that's not me. You deserve to get paid. I want you to get everything you can. But, hey, that's not my job. That's the GM's job. So, he's the jerk. And I think I think it's an important part of, organizational structure. And when you don't have it, it can wreak havoc on your organization.
It's a great way to put it. Good cop, bad cop. That's awesome stuff. Stink. Miss seeing you in person. I'm sure we'll see you soon. In the meantime, thanks so much for dropping knowledge. Appreciate you being our guest.
You got it, my buddy. I'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus, everybody else who's awesome here on Fox Sports Radio.